tett egy ígéretet. Adtunk egy ígéretet a nyugat-balkáni országoknak az európai perspektívára. A magyar elnökség szerint ideje lenne az ígéretet beváltani. Amit mi tenni tudunk, hogy összehívtuk az Európai Unió Nyugat-Balkán csúcstalálkozót, ahol előrelépést szeretnénk elérni. Engedjenek meg egy megjegyzést az európai mezőgazdaságról. Mindannyian tudjuk, hogy az európai mezőgazdaság versenyképességét a rendkívüli klimatikus körülmények, a megemelkedett költségek és a harmadik országokból érkező import és a túlzott szabályozás jelentősen lerontotta. Ma már nem túlzás, ha azt mondom, hogy mindez az európai gazdálkodók létbiztonságát veszélyezteti. Az élelmiszertermelés és élelmiszerbiztonság stratégiai jelentőségű kérdés minden ország számára és az Unió számára is. Ezért a magyar elnökség politikai irányt szeretne mutatni az újonnan felálló Európai Bizottságnak egy versenyképes, válságálló és gazdabarát európai mezőgazdaság megteremtése érdekében. Tisztelt képviselők, a magyar elnökség stratégiai vitát kezdeményezett a mezőgazdaságon túl a kohéziós politika jövőjéről is. Zajlanak a viták. Bizonyára önök is tudják, hogy az Unió lakosságának mintegy negyede olyan régiókban él, amelynek fejlettségi szintje nem éri el az uniós átlag 75%-át. Ezért Európa számára elengedhetetlen a régiók közötti fejlettségbeli különbségek csökkentése. A kohéziós politika nem jótékonyság és nem adomány, valójában az EU legnagyobb beruházási politikája és a belső piac kiegyensúlyozott működésének előföltétele. A magyar elnökség úgy gondolja, hogy ennek folytatása kulcsfontosságú az Európai Unió versenyképességi potenciáljának megőrzéséhez. Tisztelt képviselők, tisztelt elnök asszony! A magyar elnökség közös európai problémákra keres olyan megoldásokat, amelyek a józan ész talaján állnak. De nem csak megoldásokat keresünk, mi magyarok az Európai Unióban továbbra is keressük az álmainkat, a szabad és egyenlő nemzetek közösségét, a hazák hazáját, a demokráciák demokráciáját. Keressük az Istent félő és az emberek méltóságát védelmező, a kultúra, a tudomány, a szellem csúcsait ostromló Európát. Nem azért vagyunk tagjai az Európai Uniónak, mert olyan, amilyen, hanem azért, amilyen lehetne. És amíg úgy látjuk, hogy Európát olyanná tudjuk tenni, amilyen lehetne, amíg erre van egy fikarcnyi esély is, addig küzdeni fogunk érte. Mi a magyar elnökségben sikeres Európai Unióban vagyunk érdekeltek, és meggyőződésem szerint elnökségünk sikere az egész Európai Unió sikere lesz. Tegyük újra nagyjá Európát. Köszönöm, hogy meghallgattak.
Thank you. I give the floor now to the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen. Okay. All right, okay. This is not the Eurovision, huh? All right. All right. All right. And it is more Casa de Papel than ABBA, but this is not the Eurovision. Huh? Let's respect the dignity of this House. Please, President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, please take the floor.
Thank you very much, President Metsola, Prime Minister Orban, honourable members. We meet 3 weeks later than planned because of the floods that ravaged Central Europe. 5 months' worth of rain fell on Central Europe in just 4 days. Extreme weather events are the new normal of climate change. At the same time, its destructive power is too big for any country to fight on its own. The water reached the gates of the most iconic landmarks in Budapest. It destroyed crops and damaged factories. But in these 3 weeks, we have seen the people of Hungary rolling up their sleeves and helping one another. Europe wants to be at their side. Hungary requested the support of our Copernicus satellites, and we stepped in, and it helped coordinate the rescue teams and map the damage. We are also ready to mobilize our civil protection mechanism and the Solidarity Fund for all countries in the region, including Hungary. Hungary can request our support, as others plan to do. The European Union is there for the people of Hungary in this emergency and beyond, and the Hungarians deserve the full benefits of membership and access to the European funds. Honourable members, today I would like to stay focused on some of the most pressing issues that we are facing during this presidency of the Council. First, Ukraine. Second, competitiveness. Third, migration. Our Ukrainian friends are heading into the third winter of war, and Russia is trying to make it the hardest winter yet. Last month, Russia sent over 1,300 drones against Ukrainian cities. Throughout the summer, hundreds of missiles have rained on Ukrainians' energy infrastructure. Countless Ukrainians have been killed or wounded. Families have been separated. Cities have been destroyed. The world has witnessed the atrocities of Russia's war. And yet, there are still some who blame this war not on the invader, but the invaded, not on Putin's. There are still some who blame this war not on Putin's lust for power, but on Ukraine's thirst for freedom. So I want to ask them, would they ever blame the Hungarians for the Soviet invasion in 1956? Would they ever blame the Czechs or Slovaks for the Soviet repression of 1968? Would they ever blame the Lithuanians for the Soviet crackdown of 1991? We Europeans may have different histories and different languages, but there is no European language in which peace is synonymous with surrender and sovereignty is synonymous with occupation. The people of Ukraine are freedom fighters, just like the heroes that freed Central and Eastern Europe from Soviet rule. And there's only one path to achieve a just peace for Ukraine and for Europe. We must continue to empower Ukraine's resistance with political, financial and military support. Last month in Kyiv, I announced that we will provide up to 35 billion euros in loans to Ukraine as part of the $50 billion pledged by the G7. This loan will be repaid by the windfall profits of immobilized Russian assets, and it will flow directly into Ukraine's national budget. So, we are making Russia pay for the damage it caused, and we will stand with Ukraine through this winter and for as long as it takes. Honourable members, the second priority I would like to touch upon is competitiveness. 1 year ago, in my State of the Union address here in Strasbourg, I announced Mario Draghi's report on the future of European competitiveness. Now we have all heard his call to action. Let me focus on two priority areas. First, on closing the innovation gap with other major economies. Draghi's analysis is very clear on why we are losing ground, especially on breakthrough digital innovations. Too many of our innovative companies have to look at the United States or Asia to finance their expansion, while 300 billion euros of European household savings are invested in foreign markets every year. And too many barriers still exist in our single market, preventing our companies from scaling up across borders. This is why we have proposed a Savings and Investment Union. We need to lower barriers for companies to grow across borders. And we will propose a new push to complete our single market, reduce regulation on burdens, reduction on burden of reporting in sectors like finance and digital. And this is the direction to travel to strengthen our competitiveness. But what we also see is that one government in our union is heading in the exact opposite direction, drifting away from the single market. I listened very carefully today. How can a government attract more European investments if at the same time it discriminates against European companies by taxing them more than others? How can it attract more companies if at the same time it imposes export restrictions overnight? And how can a government be trusted by European businesses if it targets them with arbitrary inspections, blocks their permits, if public contracts mostly go to a small group of beneficiaries? This creates uncertainty and undermines investors' trust. And all of this at a time when Hungary's GDP per capita has been overtaken by its Central European neighbours. Hungary is at the heart of Europe, and it should be at the heart of our economy. The Hungarian people should enjoy the full benefits of our single market. Second, the Draghi report calls for a joint plan for decarbonisation and growth. Let me address those who still think that we should stick to dirty Russian fossil fuels. Just a few days after Russian tanks rolled into Ukraine, European leaders gathered in Versailles, and all 27 agreed to diversify away from Russian fossil fuels as soon as possible. So, where are we on that pledge? 1,000 days later, Europe has indeed diversified. We built infrastructures and new ties with reliable partners. We invested in cheap and clean energy that is made in Europe, and with success. In the first half of the year, 50% of all our electricity generation came from renewables, homegrown, our own energy, good jobs in Europe and not in Russia. But not everyone has acted on the Versailles commitments. Instead of looking for alternative sources, in particular, one member state just looked for alternative ways to buy fossil fuels from Russia. Russia has proven time and again it is simply not a reliable supplier. There can be no more excuses. Whoever wants European energy security, first and foremost, has to contribute to it. That is the rule we have to go. And honourable members, finally on migration. Everybody understands that migration is a European challenge, That requires a European answer. And this is why the European Parliament and the Council adopted the new Pact on Migration and Asylum. And now we must implement it. We are already looking at member states, including those at the external borders of our Union, to help them manage our common frontier. Prime Minister, I heard your words over the weekend. You said that Hungary is protecting its border and that criminals are being locked up in Hungary. I just wonder how this statement fits with the fact that last year your authorities released from prison convicted smugglers and traffickers before they did their time. This is not fighting illegal migration in Europe. This is not protecting our union. This is just throwing problems over your neighbour's fence. We all want to better protect our external borders, but we will only be successful if we work together against organised crime and show solidarity among ourselves. And speaking about whom to let in, how can it be that a Hungarian government invites Russian nationals into our union without additional security checks? This makes the new Hungarian visa scheme a security risk, not only for Hungary, but for all member states. And how can it be that the Hungarian government would allow Chinese police to operate within its territory? This is not defending Europe's sovereignty. This is a backdoor for foreign interference. Yes, we have to strengthen Frontex. Yes, we have to finalise the legislation on anti-smuggling, reinforce Europol, implement the pact in full. But this can only be achieved with more European cooperation, not less, and of course in full respect of our rule of law and fundamental values. Honourable members, this is the second time that Hungary takes the presidency of the Council. The first time was in 2011. And on that occasion, Prime Minister Orban said, and I quote, "We will follow in the footsteps of the revolutionaries of 1956, and we intend to serve the cause of European unity. Europe must stay united to stand its ground." End of quote. I think we all agree. Europe must stand united. This was true back then, and this is still true today. So let me conclude by addressing the Hungarian people. We are one family. Your story is our story. Your future is our future. 10 million Hungarians are 10 million good reasons to keep shaping our future together. Thank you, and long live Europe.
Thank you. Thank you. Now we start. Now we start with the President of the EPP Group, Manfred Weber.
Madam President, Parliament, Commission, dear Prime Minister, long time no see. Welcome in the Parliament. My first message also goes to the Hungarian people. They can count on Europe. Devastating floods, more than 20 people lost their lives. Europe will stand together to help people rebuild their homes, churches, schools. Decisive actions, friends who support you in a moment of need, that's Europe at its best. Hungary is a European country, Hungary is a strong country, and Hungary can always count on Europe's solidarity. I listened carefully to the presentation of Viktor Orban today, and I must say I'm quite shocked, because he spoke about agriculture, he spoke about migration, he spoke about the battery technologies for the future of Europe, but he didn't mention Ukraine, dear friends. He didn't mention Ukraine with one single sentence. I spoke about solidarity, and in this moment of time, the biggest need for European solidarity is to give a common answer to war being back in Europe. That is the real question which we have to answer. And I have hard times to understand why you, as a former freedom fighter, ignore the will, the desire of the Ukrainians to live not only in peace but also in freedom. I have hard times to understand that you collaborate with the aggressors. And I have hard times, as also Ursula von der Leyen said it, that one of the closest advisors of you said publicly, Hungarians made a mistake in 1956 to stand up against the Russian occupation. For me, Hungarians are freedom fighters and heroes fighting for peace, Europe and democracy. Prime Minister, reality is the following. You visited Putin in February 2022. A few days later, Putin attacked Ukraine with a brutal, unprovoked war. What have you told him? Has he shown you the military deployment plans? And this summer again, you visited Putin, and only 48 hours later, he bombed a children's hospital, killed innocent children in Ukraine. Prime Minister, that are the facts. That is the outcome of policy you are representing. Your trip was never a peace mission. It was a big propaganda show for the autocrats and those who are defining our European way of life. Your trip was not a peace mission. Your trip was never a peace mission, it was a war prolongation mission. That is what we speak about. And when we speak about content, we can talk about everything, about migration, about climate change, jobs. We do this here every day, so it's not a news for us when you present some ideas. The key question is another one. Because on migration, we found in April this year an overall compromise between all countries in Europe, the big parties in the European Parliament. We want to give an answer, and Hungary is outside, is isolated, is not having part of this. When you compare today's presidency with 2011, the last presidency, you met 12, 13 years ago all EU leaders. You met several times all EU institution leaders. You were in the centre of Europe. Today, no one really wants to see you. In 2011, you had 44 high-level meetings in Budapest. Today, no one wants to come to Budapest. In 2011, the Hungarian presidency closed 103 legislative files. Today, no progress at all. Back then, you were in the centre of Europe. Today, you are alone, you are sidelined. That is the question you have to answer. Why nobody wants to speak with you? And I also know that you are telling journalists and the public that you are now claiming to be the conservative centre-right leader. But let's have a look on the PFE group. Geert Wilders became famous in Italy. Do you know why? Because he said publicly, I quote, "No cent of European support for Italy," quote end. That is Wilders. I don't know whether Salvini discussed this with him. I don't know whether he did so. That's not patriotism. That is egoism and that is nationalism. Dear colleagues, Le Pen in France, Vlaams Belangen in Belgium, they were opposing to the idea to welcome, for example, Romania, Hungary and Slovakia inside of the European Union. That's not patriots for Europe. That is nationalists against Europe, dear friends. And that's why we will criticise it. And let's be also clear, Viktor, you didn't win the elections. Fidesz is not the winner of the elections. You had in the last mandate 12 seats and now you have 10 seats. So don't create this image that you have the support. The EPP, we won elections. That's why Ursula von der Leyen, Roberta Metsola, we have the chance to lead in Europe. And we won because we followed our DNA as Christian Democrats and as conservatives. You are trying to present you as a true conservative, but I tell you, Margaret Thatcher was a mother of today's European single market. She was leading with policies. Ronald Reagan stood up against communism and won. He did not please autocrats and anti-democrats. Helmut Kohl unified East and West with good policies like the euro and the Schengen proposal. He united and didn't split Europe. That is the true nature of Christian Democrats and EPP. These conservative leaders knew that the democratic world and Europe are stronger together, they would never be Putin's and Xi's puppets. Dear friends, that is about the European reality. And when we finally focus on the Hungarian reality, corruption is killing Hungary's future. We see the consequences every day. 4,000 Hungarian teachers left their jobs only last year due to terrible working conditions, and nearly 400,000 Hungarians emigrated in the last decades. They are fed up about corruption. As the EPP, we know Hungary deserves better. Hungarian deserves a strong voice in Europe. And when Peter Magyar was the first time in the EPP group meeting, he said the pro-European and pro-rule of law-based Hungary is back in the EPP with 7 MEPs. Today, the TISA party is neck on neck with Fidesz in the polls. And I know you're getting nervous about this, but I tell you, just as Pavel defeated Babiš in Czech Republic, just as Tusk defeated Kaczynski in Poland, TISA and Peter Magyar will defeat you in Hungary. Mr. Orban, you are the past. Peter Magyar is the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I give the floor now to Irache Garcia Perez. Can I please ask everybody to respect the speaker? Thank you. Ms. Garcia Perez, the floor is yours.
Gracias, presidenta. Señor Orban, bienvenido al Parlamento Europeo. Bienvenido a la casa de la democracia europea, donde desde la palabra defendemos nuestras ideas y defendemos el proyecto europeo. Su principal aportación a la Unión Europea desde que llegó al poder en el 2010 ha sido la formación de un nuevo grupo de extrema derecha aquí en el Parlamento, los mal llamados patriotas. Y precisamente usted se ha servido de ese falso patriotismo para demoler la democracia, para sobrevivir en la corrupción y violar los derechos de quienes no piensan como usted. Porque usted ha dicho defender a Europa, y el problema es que la Europa que usted defiende, en la Europa que usted defiende, solo caben los que piensan como usted. No cabemos el resto de europeos y de europeas. Y ese es un grave problema para la democracia, porque Europa es plural, es mestiza, es diversa, es diferente. Y lo que nos hace grandes es que, gracias a esa diferencia, hemos sido capaces de caminar juntos y de construir un proyecto común. ¿Cómo puede usted hablar de homofobia y de violencia de género cuando usted deroga en su país los derechos y las leyes que protegen a las mujeres y al colectivo LGTBI? Eso es falta de coherencia. Por favor, ese es el verdadero peligro. Le pido coherencia, señor Orban, y le hago una pregunta. ¿Es usted consciente del daño que provoca a la sociedad europea sembrar el odio hacia el diferente o hacia el que se siente diferente? Señor Orban, su falso patriotismo se inunda de una defensa exacerbada de los valores cristianos. Pero, ¿qué entiende usted por los valores cristianos? El cristianismo es amor al prójimo, compasión y dignidad humana. El cristianismo nos enseña a acoger al extranjero, a cuidar a los vulnerables y a mostrar solidaridad con quienes sufren. Cerrar las fronteras a seres humanos que huyen de la guerra y la persecución es una traición a los valores cristianos. Su falso patriotismo también añora la soberanía nacional. Usted critica a la Unión Europea por amenazar la independencia de Hungría al mismo tiempo que se beneficia de miles de millones de euros de fondos europeos que desvía a una corte de oligarcas corruptos. Usted demoniza a la Unión Europea al mismo tiempo que claudica ante el régimen de Putin. Su visita a Moscú para alabar el imperialismo ruso únicamente demuestra su desprecio hacia los derechos humanos. Señor Orban, ¿de qué paz habló usted con un tirano como Putin, que tiene una orden de arresto por el Tribunal Internacional de La Haya por la deportación forzada de niños ucranianos a Rusia? Son los valores de los falsos patriotas, los bombardeos contra casas, contra hospitales y contra escuelas. Su falso patriotismo también ha tenido un alto coste para el progreso del pueblo húngaro, y de eso también tenemos que hablar. El fin de la independencia judicial, el fin de la libertad de prensa, la persecución con su ley de soberanía, un poder adquisitivo entre los más bajos de la Unión Europea, una de las mayores inflaciones de la Unión, un sistema de protección social inexistente y una política fiscal que beneficia a las grandes multinacionales, mientras que los ciudadanos de Hungría pagan el IVA más caro. Eso sí, su incapacidad de gestionar su propio país lo justifica culpabilizando a la Unión Europea, la clásica receta de la extrema derecha y de los populistas, culpar a otros de sus propias incompetencias. Señor Orban, el verdadero patriota no se enriquece a costa de la patria ni siembra el miedo para acumular poder. El verdadero patriota hace valer su soberanía frente a retos como el cambio climático, la transformación digital y el modelo social europeo. Apelo a la unidad de todas las fuerzas proeuropeas para trabajar juntos y defendernos de grandes caballos de Troya. Señorías, la Unión Europea se construyó sobre la promesa de poner fin a los regímenes autoritarios. El pueblo húngaro también ha sido ejemplo de la lucha por la libertad, desde la revolución de 1848, pasando por el levantamiento contra el régimen soviético en 1956. Aquella promesa hoy sigue viva. Mantengámonos firmes y unidos en la defensa de nuestra libertad, de nuestra unión y de nuestra democracia. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. Now I give the floor for the PFP Group, Kinga Gál. So, dear colleagues, let's start. On the 1st of July, Hungary assumed the presidency of the Council of the European Union, and today we have the Prime Minister Viktor Orban in the European Parliament for a debate with members. The Hungarian presidency is the first of this new legislature and has a particular role and responsibility in delivering